Keep watching The Politics every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
Good afternoon. Today is Friday, March 11th. I am Robert Press, the host of the show. And you may ask, why am I wearing my New York Met jacket? I wanted to go and I wanted to wear this jacket to show him that hey, you're a Met fan, Mr. Mayor. All right, at least you're better than the previous mayor who was a Boston Red Sox fan. But here is a New York Yankee cap for you. Okay, so let me introduce my co-host, Mr. Anthony RIVIECCIO. My name is Robert Press, in case you don't know, and my credentials as a media correspondent, a reporter. So let me have my co-host, Anthony RIVIECCIO, introduce himself so I can take off this jacket. Go ahead, Anthony.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO. Forgive me for not showing you my credentials, but I got a pack of income tax files about this big right over here on the left-hand side. As most of our audience knows, I have 3 lives. My predominant life is I'm a financial and income tax advisor for RIVIECCIO Financial Advisors. My second life is I am an adjunct professor for both Herbert H. Lehman and Monroe College here in the city of New York. And my final life, which is why I'm wearing the hat, is I am a founder of a wonderful organization on the west side of the Bronx called Northwest Bronx Democrats.
Okay, let's get on with.
And by the way, Bob, I'll say it only in regards to my first life. I think you're, like I said just before we went on the air, I think you're better just giving him an envelope.
Behind me, you'll notice some green sheets on the wall. They are old petitions that I gathered from people, and we're going to get into that in the second half, because right now we're in the middle of petitioning for state and federal offices, also for party positions. But let's go into world politics, Anthony. What's happening in the Ukraine? We're hearing that the Russians are bombing hospitals now. Anthony?
As of 2 days ago, the Russians had bombed 3 hospitals. And of course, more people are dying every day. More people are leaving Ukraine every day.
Trying to leave it.
Well, both. And it's a very bad, very sad situation. Not talking, the Bidenomics scenario. People might have heard this morning that Joe Biden announced a general increase. I'm going to call it an increase in trade taxes, because when you use the word tariffs, which the government normally uses, most people don't understand that terminology. So what President Biden announced this morning was an overall general increase in the importation of Russian goods and services.
Oh, so we're still taking in goods from Russia? We're not boycotting them?
According to the announcement, the way I understand it this morning, I do have additional reports on my desk in regards to it. I have not looked at them as of yet because, as again, our audience might know, that announcement came out at 10:30 this morning, and it's still being defined as we speak.
Okay, but we're hearing that governments want to charge Putin with war crimes. Now, I find that kind of interesting, because how do you arrest the president of Russia and try him for war crimes while he's one of the superpowers?
I think, personally speaking, I think very easily. What defines a war crime? As a lot of people are now saying, is the definition of war crimes 100 dead, 1,000 dead, 10,000 dead? If the goal, if the number is 10,000, but 7,000 are dead, does that mean, war crimes were committed? I think when you start talking like that, and both sides are talking like that, in my humble opinion, I think it's totally ridiculous.
Well, we understand that he's in control of Chernobyl nuclear plant right now. And doesn't he have also the second nuclear plant that Ukraine had?
As a sign of, I presume, peace, the Russian government ordered the military there 24 hours ago to decommission the plant. So they are still in charge of the plant, but according to Russian sources, they have clicked it off for the time being.
Okay. Now, well, let's move into Bidenomics then, Anthony. And there was a report that inflation is 7.9% last night. Is that correct?
Yes and no. Yes and no. Of course, we'll go into this more in depth in our Financial Focus University show today at 5 o'clock. But to answer your question, inflation can be determined in a variety of different ways. Inflation was most recently determined yesterday when the government came out with a couple of sets of what we call price indicator numbers. The General Consumer Price Index actually went up. Let me just get it in front of me here for one moment. The CPI number actually went up month over month, 0.8%. Now, the core index, which is called, which pretty much takes account for our everyday needs, went up 0.5%. So this is where you get the number that you're referring to. I, being both an economist and a pessimist by trade, like to look at the overall number. I think it's a little unfair to just say, oh, the core number is this, and then we'll put a formula into the whole number. And in essence, it makes the number go down, right? Because if the general number is 0.8, but the core is 0.5, right, then obviously you're not taking account of the whole balance. So I like to look at the whole balance. So if you look at that 0.8, simple math, times it by 12, you're looking at an annual rate of inflation currently at 9.6. Now, that's too high for everybody. Then you can do the things, that I just mentioned a moment ago. Oh, we can lower the number by just looking at the core index, right? The core index, again, 6%. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen? It doesn't matter what you look at, because every time you grab your money starting today, it's going to say the date 1970. Welcome to the highest inflation rate since 1982. And now that we now show 6 consecutive months of inflation, as we've been saying in regards to crime, but we can now definitely say it with inflation. Welcome, young men and women, to the 1980s, where your dollar was worth about 20 cents.
So, Anthony, we're getting probably less than 1% interest still at the banks. In those years, 1980, in the early 1980s, we were getting 14% interest rates at some banks. When is that going to happen?
Bob, I'm going to tell you a funny short story, because it might turn out to be true in a couple of years. In the early, when I was on Wall Street in the 1990s, there was a very common but true joke that went on in those days, that when financial advisors such as myself would try to help people with asset allocation, there was always someone in the family that would say, we don't need you. All we got to do is talk to grandma. And I look at them and go, what do you mean talk to grandma? And they go, yeah, grandma told us in 1982 to take our money and put it in U.S. savings bonds.
Mm-hmm.
U.S. savings bonds, if our audience doesn't know, are bonds guaranteed by the United States government. Those bonds today are paying anywhere between 2 to 3%. So I wouldn't do it today. In 1982, they were paying over 10%. So grandma was absolutely correct.
And I know that City of Montreal bonds were paying 14% at that time. But we see the price of gasoline. There's a station right across from where I live, a Shell station. It's selling now at $4.79 a gallon. Okay. How soon are we going to see $5 a gallon in gas?
You know what, Bob? I'm glad you asked me that question. When we were talking about, when I was mentioning the core index a few minutes ago, let me give you one piece of that core index, the price of gasoline. Now, before I tell you that number, let me share this with you. The number I'm about ready to share with you was before the war.
Mm-hmm.
The price of gas month over month, our most recent numbers before the war was 7%.
Well, I mean, there are some state senators and there's an assemblyman who want to cut the New York state and local gas taxes. The state tax counts for 33.7 cents on a gallon, and the local tax is 15%. It's 15 cents rather. I mean, we're paying less now in sales tax per gallon of gasoline than if we go to a store and buy a jacket or any other thing that's taxable, because the tax rate is what, 9% now in the state with local tax. So this is probably about 6% now on gasoline. Before,
wait, Bob. I only because I want to be sure I heard you right. What did you say city and state tax was?
it's above 9%, isn't it?
9.25%. If we're talking New York,
yeah.
New York City, New York State, you're probably looking at 12 on average, a total of 12, 13.
12 or 13%. When did it go up that high?
Sir, you got to get in the working world. As soon as you get in the working world, you'll see it. Trust me.
All right, but so explain how the price of the tax on gasoline doesn't increase as the price goes up.
In theory, got to emphasize that. In theory, as I said off camera, I don't think anybody would be upset if you were having dinner in a restaurant and all of a sudden the waitress said to you, "We're going to take 10% off." Right? Mm-hmm. It helps the tiny bit. Really, the little tiny bit is better than nothing. So now the bigger question, which is what you're asking, is okay. Well, if we get a 10% decrease, what are the suppliers going to do with that? Are they going to lower it as well? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we live in a democratic, capitalistic society. So good luck with that.
Right. I mean, if the waitress said, well, here's 10% off, I would just add that to the tip that I'm giving to her, as I said to you again last night.
Right. But that's still an offset. That's not.
We have to remember one thing. Last year, over $1 billion came in from this gasoline tax. And where did that money go? It went dedicated to the highway and bridge repairs, as well as the MTA and other transit, providers. So are we now going to say that, well, let's take away the gas tax and our bridges that are falling down statewide, well, they can fall down because we don't have the money to fix them, or our MTA, well, we don't have money for those doors that they want to put in now, or the elevators that are needed in stations. What is the answer?
We found the answer. We found the answer 3 years ago. It's called gambling. Well, gambling, prostitution, and smoking.
We're going to go there in a second. But
those are the answers.
No, the answer is Kevin Diola. Because why is the answer Kevin Diola? It's alternate transportation, the bicycle. And bicycles, e-scooters, and all those alternate transportations that don't use gasoline. However, Anthony, how does the electric car use gasoline? Do you know? Or I should say oil. Do you know?
I'm listening.
The electric car that you have to plug in, the electricity has to come from the electric company. And how does the electric company make that electricity? Now that Indian Point has been closed, they have more oil-burning plants. So you're just taking that oil out of your gas tank and putting it into the electric company, because they're using that oil to burn the oil for the electricity. So is it really a better alternative, the electric car? Plus, you have the lithium batteries that really, once they're used up, you can't put them anywhere. They're really no good. They won't.
I can't speak to those particular dynamics. I'm not a car expert, just a financial expert. My own humble opinion is we're making a product that is a good product, but it's a product that's years in the making. Think of it as, and I remember this very vividly, actually. I remember meeting some of the old salespeople when Microsoft first came out in the late 1980s with their different types of software, Word, Excel, and it was so amazing how a lot of industry, so at first, debunked it. They just, oh, yeah. And then, of course, it, came true in the 90s with the birth of software, the computer, the internet. So I actually think electric cars are of the same ilk. My concern now is that I think we're getting too far ahead of ourselves in the sense of we're reconstructing our infrastructure now for a product for many different reasons, not including the price, right? To me, that's going to be the biggest deterrent. So, you're rearranging infrastructure to accommodate what you just mentioned with a product that will probably be very popular and very efficient by the time you and I and some of our audience go see the good Lord up in the sky.
Well, I know when I turn the key on my gas-powered car, the battery, the energy that's stored up in the battery starts the car. It makes a spark, and it starts. All right. Then, as the car is driving, it charges up that battery. So the next time I turn on the car, there'll be juice in the battery, so I could start it. Now, why can't we make an electric car the same way? That if it's going to have a battery, that while the car is running, it charges up the battery. I don't understand that.
I'm not a car driver. I'm sure you know. I don't know if our audience knows. I'm not a regular, car driver. But I do know this. If we can have corporate America not just take us to the moon, but now create luxury trips, vacation trips, I guarantee you, Bob, those things you're asking for will happen.
All right, because that is the future. All right, that is the solution. A car that can charge itself, that it doesn't need to be charged from, say, Con Edison or run on gasoline. But that is the car that will be pollution free. So you don't pollute the air, period. All right. Now let's move on to what you were saying about some of the other things. The gambling tax. Okay. There are 4 sports betting establishments right now that have made, how much is it? Was it $1 million so far this year?
Correct.
Okay. And the tax on that $1 million is 51% that goes to the state. Now they're saying, well, you're taxing us too much. And there are other companies, up to 12 companies total, that want to come into the market on sports betting because they want you to take your work check, cash it, and go bet with them so you can lose it. All right. Obviously, if they made $1 million, people are losing money. So we're going to see gambling clinics opening up for when you gamble too much. That's going to be part of with these alcoholic. It's going to be all one stop. If you're a drinker, if you're a gambler, or if you smoke marijuana.
Bob, you might be talking 5-10 years down the road. Let's talk about tomorrow. Tomorrow, not officially, but tomorrow, I would say by the end of this year, definitely, you should be able to place your betting not just at home in the men's room, but if you feel like going out to do it, the closest place will be your local racetrack.
Right.
Yonkers Raceway and Aqueduct Raceway are making those arrangements right now.
Correct. But the thing is, they want to lower the tax. There's 2 senators or a senator and an assemblyman who want to say, well, let's go down to 25%. And they say, we're going to lose revenue in doing that. We'll lose half our revenue. But since there will be 12 companies doing this, we'll gain it back from the public who will be betting more. So they'll bet.
The gambling industry will find out, unlike other states that they're working with, is that whereas the gambling companies will make their money back in 2-3 years with other states, here in New York, it's going to take 6 to 7. Why? Because of the gambling tax. Though if, and I emphasize the word if they lower it, it will not be anything significant. So gambling companies have to make a decision. Do I stay in New York knowing it's going to take me double to make my money back? I think the answer is yes, because you just look at affordable housing. Landlords know that it takes 7 years to get their money back, right? So what do? They put all their money in because they know 7 years later, they got it all back.
Right. Well, they also get subsidies from the city. From
Oh, that's how they get it all back.
Yeah.
The subsidies, right?
And tax breaks and all of that. And our next to last tax is the marijuana tax, because marijuana will now you'll be able to go, what is it, almost any place to get up to 3 ounces of marijuana. All right. And Tony has been smoking, I'm not going to say, no, we can say it now.
No, let me say it for you because it's public. Yes. I am very honored, and I don't brag about it, but I am very honored to tell anybody that's interested, all they have to do is go to my former alma mater, Lehman College, where I wrote my thesis in 1989, of which I got an A, on the legalization of marijuana.
Now, the problem is, though, that there's going to be 100 licenses for people who were previously convicted of selling marijuana. Now, there's, talk in the state Senate by a couple of senators. Why are we giving drug dealers licenses to sell marijuana now?
Where they're the most experienced. When you have a problem in your bathroom, you want an experienced plumber. So I want an experienced person behind that wheel.
Right, but they're supposed to be giving training to set these people up so they'll be experienced.
Right, and I think it's safe to say that their training will not have to be overly extensive. They'll probably have to learn more about the new government rules, sign here, make a duplicate of this. They got to learn all that paperwork rules. But as far as the intricacies of marijuana, I'd say they're already in junior year.
Right, but how is it going to be sold,
The last I've heard, and I have to really put it that way because I understand it's morphing as we speak, is that you'll be able to go to one of those dispensaries. It'll be like a dispensary, and you'll just say what you want up to a certain limit. I'm not sure exactly what the limit is, and pay for it.
Well, will these dispensaries be able to sell anything else in them besides marijuana? Will it be like Haagen-Dazs ice cream and your favorite joint? I'm sure they're going to have names for them,
Well, I would say that the way I read the law and understand the law, they're going to regulate it like any other product, right? So if the product is regulated, why couldn't you put it next to another regulated product?
Well, liquor is regulated, and a liquor store can only sell liquor, basically, but now they're allowed to sell lotto tickets. So, they can't sell bread or milk with the liquor, but they can sell lotto tickets. So, Obviously, these marijuana places will be able to sell lotto tickets at least. But, but doesn't the law say, though, that you can only have 3 ounces on you?
No, I believe the law indicates you can have up to 1.
Up to 1 ounce?
Right, I could be mistaken.
I thought it was 3 ounces.
I could be mistaken.
So these dispensaries are going to have more than 3 ounces, won't they be breaking the law?
Absolutely.
And I'm worried, if I'm a smoker of marijuana, I would be worried, okay, give me 3 ounces of marijuana, I say to the guy. All right, how do I know he's giving me 3 ounces and not 2.5?
Well, Bob, as a seasoned smoker, let me share with you, that's my biggest worry too. My biggest fight with some of my brethren and sister brethren in that area is exactly that. I remember the good old days when anybody that would dive into that area would know that the best way to check something of that concern is that it would be weighed in front of you. So that way there was no dispute about what the weight was. You would, there'd be a scale. It would, be weighed in front of you. Of course, someone seasoned would check the scale beforehand. It's very easy to check it. And then again, it's weighed, it's weighed right in front of you. So there's no dispute, as to what it is.
Anthony, you're talking to an old produce manager, okay? And I know the secret of having pennies on the scale to add weight, okay? So, you're talking ounces. So all you need is really a dime to take away part of that weight. Okay, so you have a dime taped underneath the scale.
No, because how do I explain it to you? It's a different type of waistband. And I'm not talking today. I'm talking the old days. Today it could be a whole different, ball of wax. But in the old days, it was a very simple scale. And there were just one or two things you had to do to check it. That was one of them, see if, and then it was weighed in front of you. Now today, I mean, look at it this way, right? When you go shopping, if you don't look at the register real quick, right, you're getting ripped off right there, right? How many times have you been to the supermarket? They go zoom, 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 and all of a sudden Zoom made a mistake.
Even at the deli counter, Tony, the scale starts at 0, and as they slice the meat, they start putting it on the scale to see how much it is. But again, I'm not saying that they are, but we know that these scales can be rigged.
Well, again, that's what's gonna be happening in the future. In the old days, that didn't happen so much. Today, you don't have that privilege. So if one wants to, go get their enjoyment at their local place, they have to go on good faith that what they're receiving is the right quantity.
Right, because
I can share with you that I've had my own disputes with.
They also showed in the photos that they'll be prepackaged,
Well, that's what's happening now. That's exactly what's happening now. They give you a prepackaged, and again, you're basically doing it on good faith. You're buying, hoping, because it's not like you can go home, look at it, and bring it back, right? So,
Well, we have a few minutes till we come up to halftime. So, when we come back, we're going to go into petition time and into the politics of what's happening. So is there,
Are you curious about financial literacy? Then take a look at Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO's new program on Parrot TV. It's called Financial Focus University. This is an excellent program to learn about questions related to your own finances post-COVID, and how you can manage your money, how you can work with your tax situation. And this is an excellent and informative discussion of financial literacy. With Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO, your financial problems will be solved at Parrot TV with Financial Focus University. World Inkers Monthly magazine is a fine source for your literary interests. It's an all-source magazine with poetry, prose, and essays and articles, as well as interviews. It's all full-color art and photography from a variety of voices and artists. You will find this magazine entertaining. This is an all-purpose readership, and we are looking for new voices. This sleek, full-color edition of World Inkers Monthly magazine will be something pleasant for your eyes as well as for your mind. And we're looking for authors for one book promotion in the magazine. If you're a business, we want to promote your business. You may submit your book reviews, your academic or non-academic articles on the humanities and the arts, as well as your literary writing and creative output to publication.worldinkers@gmail.com. World Inkers Monthly Magazine does not spare any ink. Keep inking for World Inkers Monthly Magazine.
Okay, now let's talk petitions, Anthony.
Robert, before we talk petitions, I gotta ask you for a big favor.
What's that?
I gotta ask you to go into our politics budget and go get some of those World Ink books. I understand they're now on Amazon, so if anybody's interested, they can go to Amazon. I understand they're at a real cheap price, so I want to congratulate our producer and everyone that's involved with the book. And I authorize you as the co-host, I'm giving you my permission to go get us 2 books.
I don't have an Amazon account, so if you do, you can do it.
No, I don't actually.
Okay, well then, Mr. Producer, you're going to have to get Anthony and myself copies because neither one of us have an Amazon account.
And please make sure you charge our host, Robert Press, appropriately.
No. The owner of the production, Mr. Sheikh Musa Drama. Okay, the owner of this company. Now let's go into petition.
Congratulations. Go ahead.
Let's go into, as you see behind me, there are different size petitions. Here is a petition it's for one candidate. This is when Ruben Diaz Jr. ran for borough president in 2000. Let's see, when was the date on this? 2009, April 2009. Then borough president Adolfo Carrion went into President Obama's cabinet, and there needed to be a special election for borough president. So this is what's known as a bullet petition. It has one name on it, and you'll see a number of lines for signatures, and then there's a statement on the bottom by the witness who watched you sign it. This is another type of petition that you'll see. There are a lot of names, and it's a big, long page. It starts at Congress, State Senate, Assembly, district leaders, judges, all the way down to
Aren't the big ones, Robert, the one that Jerry Dieter signs every year?
Well, as a matter of fact, this is one, and you'll notice the name here, Kenny Augusto, for district leader of the 80th Assembly District. This is when Kenny was known as the dancing district leader in the 80th Assembly District. And then the following year, he was redistricted into the 78th Assembly District. So he was no longer in the 80th Assembly District. However, this year, he is running again in the 80th Assembly District, Mr. Augusto, as state committee man, after running for being the state committee man in the 78th Assembly District. Now, if I was his opponent, I believe that's Mr. Carlos Sanchez, I would question Mr. Kenny Augusto's residency. How does he move from one district to another, then he moves back into another district? Something don't sound right there. And for instance, now here's a petition, and they sometimes fold it up like this. Okay, people. So you see, this is William Thompson when he ran for mayor with Betsy Gottbaum as Melinda Katz as controller. Now, why would I sign this petition? Well, I see William Thompson, Melinda Katz, but let me see who else is on this petition. Oh, look, it's Bill de Blasio for public advocate. Why do I want to sign a petition that has Bill de Blasio on it? Go away, I say, get out of here. I'm not signing that. It has Bill de Blasio on it. So make sure if you're going to sign a petition that you see the entire petition, okay? Make sure you see all the names on the petitions. You look at them and you want to sign that petition because of those names on the petition. Okay, Anthony, do you want to say anything about petition time? Because I know you get involved in petition time. You sometimes, while you were in the 80th Assembly District, did petitions for assembly candidates.
Our organization, correct, has done petitions off and on for the last 20 years. I guess the only thing that I'll sort of add to your comments, and I'll do it in a joking but truthful way, is, the level of petitions are very difficult. So we're back to the old rule. The old rule is 500. So if you stay with the old rule, you normally want to get that amount times 3. So generally now you're looking at 1,500, 2,000, which should be your minimum goal. Our organization in the last 10 years has brought on average about 3,000 to 4,000 to 5,000, depending on what district you're working in. But I've noticed that our younger generational candidates, and I'm going to partially blame it on COVID, have been working with a lot more of reduced numbers. Most of them have said it's because of COVID. I do understand, I'm sure COVID had an effect, but I also find it very disappointing that people can't bring in or just barely bring in the minimum. So what has happened in recent years with some candidates is really something no different than things that were happening 20, 30 years ago. And I'll admit our organization was guilty of it as charged with one of the petitions that you actually showed. There was a petition many years ago, I won't mention which one it was, that we were carrying But what we carried on the top, not on the bottom, what we carried on the top was it was during the time that the public libraries were getting threatened with decreases. And of course, everyone wants to save their public library.
Mhm.
And as community activists, it was happening during their budget time. So of course, that budget time was around petition time. So we sat down as a group and said, you know what? Why don't we sort of mesh the two, right? Of course, in due diligence, we explained what both of them were. But as I indicated, we had the library one on the top. So out of that 2 minutes that we were with that voter, we spent an hour, a minute, and maybe some change on the library, right? This is what's happening with the library. We got to save the library. And after we did all of that, oh, by the way, boom, number 2. No problem. So, and you will see that. I understand, again, without mentioning any names, that there was a race, I believe it was 2 to 4 years ago in the 80th Assembly District, where one of the candidates did something very, very similar. They were petitioning they were petitioning one of the homeless shelter.
No, it was
over there.
No, it was a drug clinic. That was.
I'm sorry, it was a drug clinic, and supposedly
that's the story. That is the story, that it was signed here against a drug clinic, and also, oh, by the way, signed this petition also.
Right. So, I'm only saying that to say,
and that is alleged.
Just be aware. Maybe tricks is a little bit of a harsh word, because again, as long as the petitioners explain both in due diligence, that's what's the most important. But to the average voter out there, please, be aware, ask questions. To the consultants out there, you owe me a cup of coffee. I just gave you your tip of the day.
Well, no, and let's just clarify it. It's 500 signatures, 500 valid signatures to get on the ballot for assembly. It's 1,000 for state senate and 1,500 for Congress. And the reason it's more, because those are larger districts as you go from assembly to state senate to Congress. For instance, as we mentioned, Richie Torres, now congressional district, goes from the South Bronx all the way up to Riverdale. So he's covering the South Bronx and the North Bronx now. So he's covering at least 3 or 4 state senators and maybe 5 to 6 assembly districts. Right. So, and he could be on the petitions of all of them, of candidates running in those districts. What's important, though, this year is you're voting for district leaders. District leaders get together at the county committee call, and at the county committee call, the 4 officers of the county committee are elected, and they get 1 vote each for the county leader. The 22 district leaders, with the exception of the 82nd Assembly District, which has 4 district leaders. Normally there's only 1 male and 1 female, but the 82nd Assembly District, because it goes from Throgs Neck to Co-op City, is split in half. And there's a district leader for Co-op City on the male side and on the female side, and a district leader for the Throgs Neck area on the male and the female side. Otherwise, there's only 1 district leader per assembly district, and we have 11 assembly districts. So each district leader gets 2 votes, with the exception of the 82nd, where they get 1 vote each. So there's a total of 48 votes, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, that go for the district leader, go for the county leader, and all you need are 25 votes to become the county leader. Normally, the county leader will be elected unanimously, with the exception of last year, where there was 1 abstention. Okay, but normally it's a unanimous vote. Everybody gets together and says, yeah, well, he's got the majority anyway, so let's vote for him. Okay, he'll be the district leader, the county leader anyway. So those people are on the petition, and they also need 500 signatures to get on the ballot. Now, this is phase 1 of several phases of running for office. It's getting on the ballot by petitioning. Once those petitions are gathered, they're put together into it's a petition, they're bound and given to the Board of Elections. The Board of Elections then checks it over to see if there are any, prima facie defects. What can be a prima facie defect? Anthony, you want to tell us? Or you want me?
I'll let you keep going.
Okay. A prima facie defect can be someone's address. For instance, I was running for judicial delegate 2 years ago on a petition. And instead of the correct address of 1144, 144 was put on. Now, the Board of Elections sent a letter to 144, which I never got because it's 1144. And not hearing from me, they knocked me off the ballot, okay, because of the wrong address. It can be the wrong name. You can miss a letter in your name. Anything is prima facie.
Wait a minute, Bob. They did hear from you.
Right.
You had a hearing.
Right, but they
hearing that was public, it was videotaped, and they denied you your request to get back on.
Right, even though I also got a letter from the Board of Elections at my right address of 1144. But, Anthony, this is what happens at the Board of Elections. And I'm going to digress a little here. At the Board of Elections, anything can happen. Many years ago when we had school board elections, I knocked off a school board candidate. You needed 200 valid signatures to run for school board. I knocked this person down to 137. Well, he was declared off the ballot. A couple of weeks later, I get a letter to come to the back room of the Board of Elections, and there was a hearing. I go, what is this? Well, we're going to redetermine what happened with this petition. You knocked this person off.
Wait a second, Bob. Bob, for some reason, and I apologize, I went in and out for a second. So are you saying that you got a letter that puts you back on the ballot? Because
No. It was a letter, a different type of letter from the Board of Elections. But let me just...
but they did hear from you. You had a hearing.
Let me just say what happened. Anthony, let me just continue the story about the back room of the Board of Elections, because this is what happens at the Board of Elections. If you have friends at the Board of Elections, you get back on the ballot if you're knocked off. And if you don't have friends, you can be knocked off the ballot even if you're on the ballot, believe it or not. Okay, so I'm called to the back room, and there is a commissioner from Manhattan who is going with a candidate who is a friend of his, and he's trying to get him back on. He's going line by line, page by page, and once he's not able to do this, he then says, well, the Bronx Board of Elections had 3 recounts and got 3 different numbers. He goes, the Bronx Board of Elections are a bunch of incompetents, and I want it done. I want a recount done in a competent borough, my borough, Manhattan. And, well, I know what's going to happen. They're going to find these signatures and put them back on. So they say, Mr. Press, we'd like you to come down for another recount. Well, I'm one step ahead of the Board of Elections, and I say, well, Mr. Chairman, tomorrow I'm going on vacation for a month. I won't be available. And the chairman says to me, well, we want you there for the recount. And knowing what's going to happen, I say, go ahead, put the man back on the ballot. I know what's going to happen. So this commissioner then makes a motion. Well, I make a motion. We put him back on the ballot. Okay. As they're about to vote, I say, excuse me, he needs 200 signatures, valid signatures. How many does he have? The commissioners look at each other. This commissioner from Manhattan goes, I make a motion. We put him back on with enough signatures. And the Board of Elections votes, the commissioners vote, and they put him back on the ballot. Okay? This is what goes on at the Board of Elections, Anthony. Okay?
Are we doing the school board race?
I can't hear you, Anthony.
Can you hear me now?
A little better, yeah.
Are we talking the school board race?
Yeah, this was during the school board race years ago.
What year?
1999, I believe.
You think they're still going with us?
Things like this still go on at the Board of Elections, I'm told. Okay, because if you remember, our good friend, Mr. Ricky Martinez, who ran for election for the Assembly, who is no longer with us, unfortunately. He ran against Jose Rivera. He and yourself, as well as the whole slate, were knocked off. It just so happened that I went to the Board of Elections. I can't hear you clearly, Anthony. You're breaking up.
It's the Board of Elections' responsibility to tell that person. I'm not gonna let you say I was off the ballot, because if you say it on air, then I'm gonna stay on air.
You're breaking up, Anthony.
They should be sued for not telling me, because I can tell you it's a fact. No front or back deals were made. So if you're going to say that on air, then I'm going to also say on air that you and the Board of Elections should be sued.
No, Anthony, I went down seeking information. And I was told it was a
Bob,
year
you
of
can put yourself in a
redistricting.
very bad situation. I keep telling you, you got.
It was a year of redistricting, and I was told that we told the incumbents not to go into the fringe areas. This was all reported in one of my articles. We told the incumbents not to go into the fringe areas, and I asked when are the books going to be ready, because then we use books to find out who was registered where, and I was told the books will be ready in September. And I said after the primary. And then all of a sudden, Anthony and my friend Ricky Martinez were put back on the ballot, and Jose Rivera was fit to be tied because Ricky was running against Jose. That's in the past, but this is what can happen at the Board of Elections. People can be knocked off the ballot, put back on, things happen. All right, so I'm just telling you that when you go to vote,
You're telling
make
me
sure
your
you vote.
version, Bob, which I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with. I just would think that procedurally, which is why I still don't believe it happened, okay, that they're supposed to tell you. But the only reason I will give your statement a little bit of credence is because you forgot the other side of that story,
Which
right?
is?
I was put on a ballot and nobody told me I was put on.
Well, that
right? So I was put on a ballot that I wasn't told about. And now you're telling me this ballot that I didn't know anything about, that you know, but nobody else knows, I was taken off the ballot.
No,
right?
Anthony.
So welcome to Magic Land, ladies and gentlemen.
Anthony, I was there for Mr. Martinez. I didn't know you were on the ballot. Okay, I didn't know you were on that.
So that's why I'm giving your story a little bit of credence.
Anthony, as you know, who was the one who made up the petition? Who made it up? Who made up the petition? Because you were behind Mr. Martinez.
The same guy that made yours. When your address all of a sudden got rearranged.
Well, I know exactly why. That was the candidate running for assembly who did.
Well, some would beg to differ, right? I mean, was it the candidate or the vendor that was in charge of the petition?
Anthony, you were collecting signatures from Mr. Martinez that year. So you had the petition in your hand. How could you not know you weren't on it?
I think you'll see that with all of Mr. Martinez's petitions, although we might have indirectly have been helpful and supportive, we did not have any active participation in this petition.
Well, again, as you can see, on petitions, there are judicial delegates, which is what Anthony was running for, and there are alternates, and sometimes, and there is even county committee that runs every 2 years. They're running this year because they have
I said, welcome to Magic Land. Right. You're showing the petition that Derek Jeter signs every year.
Well, no.
So welcome to Magic Land.
What it is people are members of political clubs, and it's assumed that they want to be the county committee person. Okay, for instance, the district leader right now, Marco Sierra of the 80th Assembly District, is not running for re-election. He's now he's running for a county committee position, okay, which is a much lower position. So he's not going to be the district leader. The district leader in the 80th Assembly District right now, there are only two candidates. There is Remy Salas, who is running on Natalia Fernandez's petition, with Natalia Fernandez and who's the other female district leader? Sandra Pabon, and the whole slate, including state committee people and county committee, all right, and judges. Whereas the other petition is running Irene Estrada for assembly. She's also running for district leader with male district leader Sammy Ravello, which he ran for borough president last time, didn't he? I was surprised he didn't run for assembly this time. That would have been a perfect fit for him. But Irene is running for assembly. And they, I believe, have a judge or two. And I don't know if they have any other candidates on. Oh, yeah, they have state committee, because we know that Carlos Sanchez is running for male state committee. All right. But we don't know if there are any other positions, if they have judicial delegates or not, or county committee. But this is what happens. You have petitions, and it looks like Ms. Fernandez may have her first primary since coming into office. And this is what's done, hurt some people. And Jeff Klein in 2018 did not get the help because the assembly members under him, Jeffrey Dinowitz, Natalia Fernandez, and Michael Benedetto, all three didn't have primaries. This year, though, the state Senate race, which there are 4 candidates, we'll get to that in a moment if we have time, they will have a primary. The assembly members will have primaries in all 3 assembly districts, which could help the county candidates for state Senate, Migliana Camilio. Okay, and I tried to send the tape to our producer, but it got to him too late, so he couldn't put it up. But I hope he has pictures that he can put up of Sandra Pabon at the AOC/Fernandez rally, where Sandra's holding up her AOC T-shirt and says, "Take the picture with my AOC T-shirt on." And then there's another picture of Remy Salas outside having people sign a petition. But
now, Robert.
Wait. Hold it, Anthony.
No,
hold
Robert,
it.
I gotta ask you an important question.
Let me finish, Anthony. Anthony, let me finish. Because the petition he has just AOC, Congressman Ocasio-Cortez, and Assemblywoman Fernandez. So I said to Mr. Salas, "Gee, Remy, aren't you running for district leader?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "I don't see you on this petition." "Oh, I'm on the other petition." So I said, "Why aren't you pushing that petition then with your name on it? Why are you pushing this one without it?" So he then went inside to get the other petition. But this is what happens. People don't know. They're told, go stand outside and push this petition. The Assemblywoman was inside. As a matter of fact, she said to me, "What am I doing there?" Because they didn't call the media. It's just, and I said to her, "I'm not here for you. I'm here for the Congresswoman Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, who I got noticed." And Sunday, the Congresswoman is having an event outside Emilio's Pizza on Morris Park Avenue. And I'm sure you might even be attending because you were talking to me about the pizza, that you loved Emilio's Pizza and you might want to come over for a slice, correct?
Well, I didn't say I love their pizza, but what I might do is enjoy a lunch.
Right, but in the past, because now it's a third owner since the last time you had a slice there.
Well, I'm almost scared to say this. In the old days, yes, Emilio's was a good restaurant. I believe it is still a good restaurant.
Well, it is. It's terrific, the food. But, when you change hands, things change. Correct. For instance, across the street was Captain's, and it's now a Didio's Pizza, and he's from North Riverdale. So,
listen, Bob, my worry with today's restaurants, and I think you covered it very well in your political piece, is that people don't know what they're doing. They want to own the world and run the world and don't know what they're doing. Why is everyone carrying an AOC banner on the Natalia Fernandez campaign? Because they're not looking to win. They're not looking to win. They're looking for their own individualized attention. That doesn't help Ms. Fernandez. That helps Ms. Ocasio. So, of course, this arrangement that they have totally benefits her. Can it benefit Natalia? Very much so. The problem? Well, the front line doesn't want to represent that. The front line wants to represent AOC.
Well, and it's going to hurt the people underneath Fernandez because they'll be pushing the AOC petition rather than their own.
If that day that you just described is an example of the campaign in general, which I hope it isn't, then yes, that campaign is in for a long ride. But sadly, her opponents are probably in for a longer ride.
And I don't know if the candidate Fernandez is looking to push both petitions, so she's going to count the same signature twice, because if they want the AOC signature, they're going to have to carry 2 petitions. Like the Ben Franklin Club did one year, they carried the Dinowitz petition for Dinowitz and whichever state senator the district was in, as well as the down slate for the 81st Assembly District.
Well, I mean, let's get to
and they had to carry a separate petition for Elliot Engel.
Yeah, but Bob, let's get to the bigger picture here with this, right? I don't know if that's where you're going, but let's get to the bigger picture. The bigger picture is why have this arrangement, right? To have this arrangement, we have to look back to 2 years ago. right? 2 years ago, maybe the audience doesn't know the backdoor stuff that, some of the backdoor stuff that you were talking about. But the bottom line is that she barely made the ballot 2 years ago, right? In her own independent/county organization. So she barely made it. So now she needs some, as I always call AOC, international help.
Correct, Anthony. And in looking at that petition, it probably could have been knocked off because I found several mistakes on that petition from 2 years ago. Okay. The Assemblywoman will say no, but it would, and this is where we go into phase 2 after the Board of Elections come the court challenges. Okay. Where someone will say, well, I found X amount of signatures that I think are fraud or forgery. And this is where we get into what Anthony was mentioning, the Derek Jeter signature. 1 year, there was a city council person who gave a petition in, and on that petition was who, Anthony?
Are you referencing the campaign of Miss Carmen De La Roya, I believe?
Carmen Del Arroyo. Maria del Carmen Arroyo, yes.
Thanks.
It was alleged that there was fraud, and when someone saw a signature of Derek Jeter. Okay, so you want to finish the story?
No, you can finish it, but don't forget, they also found Yogi Berra on there too.
I didn't know that one.
Oh, yes.
But so what happened was the councilwoman at the time wound up resigning, and there had to be a special election in 2016, I believe, or 17, where current councilman Rafael Salamanca was elected. So while we have term limits of 8 years, 2 4-year terms, Councilman Salamanca will serve more than 8 years. He'll serve 8 3/4 years because of that. All right. We've had other people resign, like, for instance, like I said, Borough President Diaz served more than 12 years, which was his term limit because they instituted the 2 terms after his first term. So he served 12.5 years. All right. And what's happening now is next year is going to be another council race. So it'll be 2 years.
But Bob, but don't go too far ahead. Finish that, the other part of that story, right? I believe a couple of years later, after that incident, her mother, Carmen, right, had the same issue.
Well, I don't know that.
She got thrown. No, what do you mean you don't know? You're Mr. Know-It-All. She got thrown off the ballot also, right? Mm-hmm. But because it was such, but because it happened in such a last minute, even though she was not technically eligible to run, they could not technically take her off the ballot. Mm-hmm. Who won?
Carmen Arroyo won, but she wasn't on the ballot. Or pardon me.
No, she was on the ballot. She just wasn't eligible to run. And what did she win by?
Probably 1,000 votes.
Well, I don't know in actual numbers, but I can tell you that she won 3-1.
Mm-hmm. But and that also happened in the 79th and the 87th Assembly District with the down people from the Assembly candidates. It was Mr. George Alvarez, who was running in the 79th. His down candidates from District Leader down were not eligible to be on the ballot, which they were, as well as in the 87th from Mr. John Perez, the same thing. His district leaders and down were declared not eligible. Even though Mr. Alvarez's male district leader would have been the male district leader, he was declared ineligible, even though he was on the ballot. And these are the things that happen at the Board of Elections. Okay, so this is what you see. The Board of Elections is not perfect. Well, pardon me for leaning in. My screen is so small, I had to lean in. We have less than a minute left, Anthony. Is there anything you want to say? But before, we're going to have a guest next week, Mr. Christian Amato, who is running in the 36th Senate District, which is now the 34th Senate District. What happened, 2 Senate districts have come down, so it made the 34th into the 36th. Mr. Christian Amato is one of 4 candidates. Ms. Lisa Hofflick is another candidate. There is James Grazzani, who is a candidate. He's a perennial candidate for state senate. He's run against Biaggi, I believe, twice. And the last candidate is a Bronx Democratic Party candidate endorsed by Jamal Bailey, Migliera, Camilio, who and it's a funny thing because she comes from the Board of Elections. She was deputy director of the Bronx Board of Elections. Anything you want to say, Anthony?
That there is a publishing company that wants to make life easier for you as a writer. This publishing company is called World Inkers Printing and Publishing. We publish in all different languages, and we're looking for writers of all genres, all formats. We're looking for scholars, ghostwriters, playwrights, poets, short fiction, novelists, you name it. We're looking for anybody who is interested in writing and the craft of writing to be in touch with us. You can reach us at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. With World Inkers Printing and Publishing, you do not require a lot of money to publish with us. Contact us today at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. Are you curious about financial literacy? Then take a look at Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO's new program on Parrot TV. It's called Financial Focus University. This is an excellent program to learn about questions related to your own finances post-COVID, if how you can manage your money, how you can work with your tax situation. And this is an excellent and informative discussion of financial literacy. With Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO, your financial problems will be solved.